Okay. Hello, my name is Nick Kyriacou, and this is the mini summary due on April 19th. The readings today were a selection of Supreme Court cases that kind of followed three general topics. The first of these is affirmative action, then we had voting rights, and then we had same-sex marriage. So I'm just going to go through, very briefly describe each of the cases and the results of them. Okay, so I'm actually going to work slightly backwards here, but the first case I'm going to talk about is under same-sex marriage. This was Aubergeville versus Hodges, and so generally what happened is several groups of same-sex couples, they sued their states in Ohio, Michigan, Kentucky, and Tennessee to challenge the constitutionality of the state's refusal to grant them marriage licenses. So two fundamental questions were at stake here. One, does the 14th Amendment require a state to license a marriage between two people of same sex? And two, does the 14th Amendment require a state to recognize a marriage license performed legally in another state? And the decision was by 5-4 yes to both of them. The decision was based on the fact that marriage is viewed as the cornerstone of society, so the Supreme Court, and is a fundamental right of all citizens, so the Supreme Court has to protect it for all people. Next, we have Shelby Counter versus Holder, which really kind of deals with voting rights. So essentially, in this case, what happens is a small town in Alabama. A small town in Alabama sued the United States Congress on the basis that their states' rights were being violated because of two clauses in the 14th Amendment, or the Voting Rights Act. And what these clauses essentially did was they targeted areas with rates of high voter discrimination, and they attempted to place severe restrictions on the election laws there. So the main question was, does the Voting Rights Act, do parts of it exceed constitutional congressional authority? And the Supreme Court decided yes, that it did. In a 5-4 decision, it said that because voting rights or voter discrimination is no longer an issue, Congress can no longer exceed on the states' rights of self-government. Finally, the last two of these cases talks about affirmative action. So the first of these cases is Grutter versus Bollinger and Fisher versus University of Texas at Austin. They're really the same thing. What essentially happens is a highly qualified white female applies to university admissions and gets denied, and the university admissions list race as one of its factors it considers. So in each case, although Fisher versus Texas hasn't been decided, in each case the question is, does the use of racial preferences violate the Equal Protection Clause? And at least in Grutter versus Bollinger, the Supreme Court decided in a 5-4 decision that it does, society, and that it should protect marriage.